Welcome to Scoreflow. Newcastle's campaign never settled into one clear rhythm for long. Today, we revisit Newcastle's 24-25 season and the moments that defined it. A measured start to the campaign, Newcastle edged Southampton 1-0 at St James's Park thanks to Jollington right on half-time. Looking to build on the opener, the trip to the Vitality ended level as Gordon cancelled Tavernier for a 1-1 draw. Cup focus took over at the City Ground, Willock's first-minute strike setting up a 1-1 that Newcastle won 4-3 on penalties to reach the third round. Back to league business and back home, Barnes and Isak secured a composed 2-1 over Tottenham despite a Burn own goal. After that big Spurs scalp, the reset on the road was handled well at Molineux, with late goals from Shah and Barnes turning it 2-1. Chasing further momentum, Newcastle were pegged back at Craven Cottage as Barnes's reply wasn't enough in a 1-3 defeat sealed late. Needing a response, a disciplined St James's Park display brought a 1-1 against Manchester City, Gordon's penalty cancelling Gvardiol. Cup rhythm resumed. Cher's spot kick on half-time made it 1-0 over AFC Wimbledon and sent Newcastle into the round of 16. League duties took Newcastle to Goodison Park, but a missed Newcastle penalty framed a 0-0. Back on Tyneside, a tight contest slipped away to Danny Welbeck as Brighton nicked it 1-0. Seeking a reaction at Stamford Bridge, Isak's goal couldn't prevent a 1-2 defeat to Chelsea. Switching to the Cup and back at St James's Park, Isak and a Disasi own goal delivered a 2-0 win over Chelsea and a quarter-final place. Focus returned to the league, where Isak's early strike clinched a controlled 1-0 against Arsenal. After that statement over Arsenal, Newcastle reset on the road and came from behind at the City Ground for a 3-1 win through Isak, Jollington and Barnes. Hoping to keep the run rolling, a return to St James Park brought a 0-2 setback to West Ham. Looking to steady things at Selhurst Park, a Gay own goal had Newcastle in front before a late Muniz leveller made it 1-1. Back home against Liverpool, a breathless 3-3 saw Isak and Gordon strike before Shah's stoppage time equaliser, with Mohamed Salah scoring twice for the visitors. The schedule moved on to the G-Tech, where despite goals from Isak and Barnes, Brentford ran out 4-2 winners with a late fourth. In response at St James's Park, Murphy's brace set the tone as Bruno Guimaraes and Isak completed a 4-0 over Leicester. Quarter-final cup duty brought Brentford to Tyneside, Tonali's double and Shah's strike sealing a 3-1 win and a semi-final berth despite a late reply. Shaking off cup euphoria, Newcastle hit the road to Portman Road, where Isak's hat-trick and a Murphy goal powered a 4-0. With momentum building, Gordon, Isak and a late Jollington wrapped up a 3-0 over Aston Villa back on home turf. Old Trafford next, and Newcastle stayed ruthless as Isak and Jollington struck early for a 2-0 victory. The campaign rolled on in North London with a comeback 2-1 at Tottenham through Gordon and Isak, stretching the league winning run to 5. Semi-final focus at the Emirates, Isak hitting 15 in all competitions and Gordon delivered a 2-0 first leg platform over Arsenal. Back to FA Cup action, Newcastle came from behind at St James's Park as Miley, Gordon from the spot and Osula earned a 3-1 and passage to round 4. Switching back to the league, Isak's brace and a Gordon finish made it 3-0 against Wolves. After a commanding Wolves win, Newcastle's scoring streak continued, but Bournemouth struck hard as Kluivert's hat-trick headlined a 1-4 at St James Park. Needing a reaction on the road, Isak's penalty in quick second turned it around at St Mary's before Tonali sealed a 3-1 over Southampton. Seeking to push on back at home, Murphy's goal wasn't enough as Fulham edged it 2-1. Semi-final second leg, St James Park rose to a 2-0 over Arsenal through Murphy and Gordon to book a place in the final. Turning quickly to the FA Cup and a trip to St Andrews, Newcastle came from behind as Willock's brace and Wilson secured a 3-2 progression. Back to league fire at the Etihad, Newcastle were overrun 4-0 with Omar Marmoush hitting a hat-trick. In need of a lift on Tyneside, Newcastle roared back from an early setback as Miley and Murphy sparked it, and Isak's double sealed a 4-3 despite a stoppage-time scare, taking him to 20 in all competitions. Chasing continuity at Anfield, Newcastle were beaten 2-0 by Liverpool. FA Cup focus at St James's Park ended in a 1-2 exit to Brighton, Isak's penalty outweighed by a late Danny Welbeck strike. Back to league business on the road, Bruno Guimaraes decided a tight 1-0 at the London Stadium. At Wembley, Byrne and Isak put Newcastle 2 up and they lifted the Carabao Cup with a composed 2-1 over Liverpool despite a late Chiesa goal. Returning to league life after the cup triumph, Isak reaching 20 league goals and Tonali delivered a 2-1 against Brentford. Momentum carried into the King Power as Murphy struck twice and Barnes added another for a clean 3-0. St James's Park crackled as Tonali, Barnes's brace and Bruno Guimaraes powered a 4-1 over Manchester United. Keeping standards high, Newcastle swept Crystal Palace 5-0 with a Gay own goal, a missed visitors' penalty, and Isak taking his tally to 25 in all competitions. Villa Park then brought a jolt, Shah's reply undone by a heavy 1-4 that included a Byrne own goal. Home comforts returned and a penalty and power told as Isak, Byrne and Osula eased to a 3-0 over Ipswich. After that emphatic win, the road to the Amex yielded a 1-1, Isak levelling late from the spot after Minter's opener. Back at St James Park against Chelsea, Tonali struck inside 2 minutes and Bruno Guimaraes added a late clincher for 2-0. With momentum still good, the Emirates edged it as Rice's strike meant a narrow 0-1 defeat to Arsenal. On the final day, hopes of a response faded as Everton nicked a 1-0 at St James Park. By the end of it all, Newcastle had finished 5th in the league, in a season that kept swinging between momentum and setbacks. In the domestic cups, they won Carabao Cup. Finally, Isak finished as top scorer with 27 goals in all competitions, and the side scored in 10 straight matches at its peak, and they recovered 7 wins from losing positions. Thanks for watching Scoreflow. Let us know in the comments how you judge Newcastle's 24-25 season. Like, share and subscribe for more season deep dives.